What's up, dudes? It is the 1st of December. Um, and we forgot to finish our devlog. So the day before yesterday, that was because I actually planned on coming back, and I didn't. Like, I planned on coming back and coding more, and I did not. I caught the plague, so it like shut me down big time. And I went to work yesterday, but I was like, I was down. As soon as I got left from a nap, like I never take naps. But I did. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off the day before yesterday, which was so like everything looks good. It's virtually the same exact mic that I had. It's just so hopefully everything is working as it should. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So we had finished implementing the final decision form of progression text design function and progression. Tested via game test, everything seemed to be working. Reviewed all those changes, everything looks good. Now we're done with that. Okay, cool. So now we can go to things to do, and we're going to pick up a new task. So let's see what we have here. We have other client DC, client side logic. Mention that we have logic in place to alter the game output whenever the client receives information showing the other client DC'd. Need to review this. If not added, need to ensure we alter display information output on surviving client while player is DC'd. Review connect code for whenever client reconnects. So need to include logic client side for whenever other client reconnects, or if they don't. Say timeout, which brings them back to the menu screen. It says player forfeited, give them a win. Then we have receive verification. Logic from receive verification lost over network. Okay. Or whenever receive verification lost over network. Okay. For whenever change list is lost over network. If we have a system, we can use the 4x received to determine then was lost. For the next in line, 1, 2, 3 missing 5, 6, 7 send ID that we requested. In this case, send ID 4 would be request for that data to see if it has already been sent. If we had the 2x send ID system, we wouldn't be able to do this, since we would not know which send ID was next, since C1 thread and C2 thread use the same send ID. Sent to C1, C1 send ID 2, sent to C2. But from CS side wouldn't know which 4x we always go. Ideally we have one solution which solves both problems. Then we have the menu screen. Need to add in menu screen, creating a login system. So yeah, I think I would go in like the order that we have this. I don't want to add anything new per se, like the menu screen, creating a login system. That would Fix bugs, proper cleanup if you're using proper cleanup methods, then of certain processes such as closing sockets, files using close. Other plank possible to last. Change code to make it so that for each client the other player's cards are displayed face down instead of face up. Re-enable sound, yeah, so yeah, so I think we're just gonna go in order here. I'll just start at the top, which is gonna be other client, DC, client side. So I'm not sure we have logic in place to alter the game output whenever the client receives the information showing. Okay. So let's let's open up server, client, both of them. Check our extensions. Looks like our extensions are be restarted. Okay, so let's think about this. Whenever the client disconnects, we have we don't need the terminal right now. So we have our init. Listen, start accepting client. Maybe we don't want to look at all those notes. We have threaded client. Okay, so now we have both clients are connected at this point on the server side. Now we run our try, and then eventually we get to accept. So this is our main while loop, and then we go all the way down here, and we get to accept. Okay, and this is accept for main while loop, try. So we have accept connection refused error, connection reset error, and then timeout error catches all connection related errors. So then it sets the current client online to false, and we put, let's see, but don't run con close here because we can just reuse the socket with a different client. This section only runs. Don't run connection close here because we can just reuse the socket with a different client. This section only runs if client thread has broken out of main while loop. So only if the client thread has broken out of main while loop, changes pertinent information to allow reconnection, other client notification, etc. Okay. And I'm not sure if that's actually true. So I'm gonna review that eventually. All right, so we set current client online to false. This is necessary for when if the client reconnects for threading logic, etc. Okay. And then we have, in the case that one of the players has disconnected from the game after both players had started the game already. Set at our other game state, other players. Well, actually, this is not right because this should game. Oh, that's see, right, hold on. We're on the have client 1 thread. Let's say this is client 2 thread. They disconnect on the client side. That's going to trigger the accept. Then that's going to trigger online to false, which would be for client 2, which is correct. Client 1 game state player DC. Then we have verified ID received -1. Verified ID received from 2 to 1. Only 1 in Y ID is equal to none. Which is verified ID received from 2 to 1, which ensures client will not get stuck. Section. Stage of client section which client receive and subsequently verify reception. Basically, if this doesn't get changed from back to 1, it would skip a certain section or whatever. And then it runs start accepting clients, which begins accepting connections in the case the client is going to attempt to reconnect. Does that work? So we're gonna put a book. We need to check this out. We need to check out the verify. Then we need to check out the accepting clients. We need to look at online. So I'm gonna put a book next to each one of those. And then I want to make sure, are these all the connection related errors? So let's ask ChatGPT first. We'll just go in order, I suppose. Let's ask Claude. So we have connection with these errors so that I can better understand which. Not I have them all here. Currently I don't. So we have the class connection related errors example. The example is print connection failed. We have connection coded errors. These class for all connections. This connection error so connection with error our child class. First, yes, exactly. Okay, cool. Showing me this exception base class for all built-in exceptions. So it's a class here. Exception base class for all built-in exceptions. We have an OS error. It's a base class for OS related errors. Then we have connection error. So it inherits. OS error inherits from exception, and connection error inherits from OS error. Connection error is the base class for connection related errors, and then we have aborted error inherits from connection error, connection aborted by peer, connection refused error used by peer, connection by peer. What's up with this syntax here, with this straight line here? What is this? Is this some sort of Python syntax? I don't know. Exception base class for all building class OS error base class connection error. Gotcha. Okay, understood. What is that syntax? Is that Python? That's not Python. Actually, mermaid syntax, which is a markdown style syntax for creating diagrams. The less than, I don't even know what that straight line stands for. It's inheritance points from the child class. Gotcha. Is subclass. You can do the is subclass connection error, is subclass connection error, and then connection error. Or you can check the resolution. Word error, connection error, OS exception. So what does the straight line mean in Mermaid? In Mermaid, the pipe character. So it's called a pipe character. So to create the arrowhead shape, it makes the arrow that points from the child to the parent. The left side of the arrowhead forms a vertical line of the arrow. Arrow with open head. Start. I mean, that's just. All these arrows are used to represent different types of. That's fine. Alright, so this is the child. So the arrow is pointing to the. Okay. Got it. Alright, let's read them here. So we have the connection error, base class. Connection refused, connection reset, and timeout error. Connection aborted error. When a connection attempt is aborted by the peer. So let's check this. Connection aborted error. Okay. So a connection aborted error in Python typically occurs when a network connection is unexpectedly closed by the remote host, while your program is still trying to communicate with it. Here's a breakdown of what it means. Remote host closing the connection. The most common reason the server or other endpoint you're interacting with has closed the connection. This can happen due to various reasons, such as server timeout, server overload, network issues, intentional closure by the server. range of max retries. Try code that might raise connection aborted error. If successful, exit the retry loop. Accept connection aborted error if I minus max retries minus 1. So if max retries was 3 and then we subtract 1, that would be 2. So if I was 2, it wouldn't retry. That doesn't make sense. That's bad code, isn't it? Because max retries is 3. Wouldn't it just be if I is then max retry? Range, and range is gonna start at 0, right? Yeah, range starts at 0. Go over here and we say for x in range of x, it prints 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we have max retries equals 3, this for x in range of 0, 1, and 2. Okay, if x is less than this one, x. So we have 0 and 1. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this code is wrong here. I mean, it's just a squabble. It's like, it's nothing. It's quabble, whatever you want to call it. But like, this is only allows for 2 retries, 0 and then 1. It should just be if x is, yeah, because it's using index, so it should be if x is less than mr. Silly AI. Can't even do the simple things. So more importantly, what causes this? Connection aborted error type like in Python typically occurs when a network connection is unexpectedly closed by the remote host while your program is trying to communicate with it. So connection aborted error is when the server, the remote host, which says or other endpoint you're interacting with has closed the connection. And I didn't have that accounted for. I only had connection refused error, connection reset error, so we had connection refused, connection reset, and then timeout error. So let's contrast connection aborted error with connection refused error or connection reset. So connection refused error is when a connection attempt is refused by the peer. A connection attempt is refused by the peer. And then connection reset error is when a connection is reset by the peer. I don't necessarily understand the difference between connection reset and connection aborted. And then timeout error when a connection operation times out. Okay. Alright, so if we have questions, let's see. So the first one would be, what's the difference? Connection aborted error and connection by the peer. Often happens during an active data transfer. Usually indicates an orderly but premature connection termination. The peer actively decided to stop the connection while it was in use. Connection reset error occurs when the connection is forcibly closed by the peer. Often happens when trying to use a connection that the peer has already closed. Okay. Usually indicates a more abrupt termination. Commonly seen when trying to write to a socket that the other end has already closed. So During an active data transfer, usually indicates an orderly but premature connection termination. The peer actively decided to stop the connection while it was in use. As to where connection reset error, connection is forced to be closed by the peer. Okay, and that's the one that we already had. This is whenever they're trying to write to a socket that the other end closed. But aborted error is like during the action of communication. Connection reset error is attempting to use the socket. Connection aborted error might occur here. While true, data socket received, peer suddenly closes during transfer, except connection will peer stop the transfer midway. Connection reset error might occur here. Try socket send data, trying to send data when peer already closed connection. Okay. Or they're like hanging up during conversation. Reset error is more likely to talk into a phone. It's already hung up. Got it. So I'll put this in the over here. Connection reset error is most commonly seen on the client side, typically when the server has terminated the connection but the client is still trying to use it. This is often referred to as writing to a broken pipe. You'll also commonly see this in web applications when making HTTP requests to a server that suddenly terminates. Working with long-lived connections like WebSockets that get terminated by the server. Long-lived connections like WebSockets that get terminated by the server. Load balancers or firewalls forcibly closing. Termination. But they can happen on server side. Yes, absolutely. The server can also receive connection reset error, typically in scenarios where the client abruptly disconnects. Got it. Okay. Okay, so we understand the connection aborted error, which is the peer suddenly closes during active transfer, and then connection reset error, which is when an action is attempted, a communication is attempted to be made on an already closed connection. Then we have connection refused error. When a connection attempt is refused by the peer. Okay. Explain more about refused error. So connection refused error occurs when you try to connect to a port where either no application is listening at all, a firewall is blocking the connection, the server application is configured to reject connections from your IP. No application is listening at all, a firewall is blocking the connection, or the server application is configured to reject connections from your IP. So we would import socket, then socket.socket, try connecting to a port where nothing is listening. So when you try to connect to a port where nothing is listening, notice when the server isn't started yet, you type the wrong port number, server is at capacity and rejecting new connections. You're blocked by firewall rules. The service is down for maintenance. Put if true. And this is if you want to read the notes about the different types of connection. And then we'll put this in here and then put paths. Alright, and I have to use the restroom, so I'll be back. Okay, what's up? Okay, so this connection refused error. This is when you try to connect attempt to connect to a port where it's listening, firewall blocking connection. Config to reject con from IP. Okay, so we have timeout errors when a connection or operation times out. That's like pretty straightforward. And then OS error is a general OS level network error. Network related OS error. Socket error. Socket specific errors. The OS errors preferred in Python 3. In modern Python 3 socket error is actually just an alias for OS error. This was done to simplify the execution hierarchy. Here's the key points. These are equivalent in Python 3. Print socket error is OS error. So they're exactly the same, literally. Both of these catch the same errors. Try sock equals socket connection. Sock dot connect non-existent, and then 80 accept OS error as E. So if you try to connect to IP that list, you get OS error. Python there was it was merged into OS consistency, and for backward recommended practice is OS error. Specific errors like connection error, used error when possible. Only use socket error if you're writing code that needs. Oh, this is the base class for connect. So to be specific, we need refused error, connection reset error, and then the timeout error. Separate, doesn't inherit from connect. And yeah. All socket related errors are now subclasses of OS error. So would we need to accept for OS error as well as use error, etc. to catch socket related three connection subclasses catch all error subclasses. Use error, aborted error, connection reset error won't catch all socket related errors. There are other related. Socket errors. Could raise connection refused error. Okay. We're connecting to refused errors connect to a port with no connection reset error is attempted transfer over RD clone. Or it could error if it's terminated during the transfer. There's timeout error, so OS error. Try to receive, and if it doesn't happen within, there's OS error argument. If we try to bind to an invalid IP, okay, could raise OS error address already in use. Okay. Okay, so that was informative. I understand enough now to continue. So this is going to, on the server side, this will accept in case that we get one of these errors, which would be the attempt to connect to a port where no app is listening. Firewall is blocking the connection. Config is reject from IP, server capacity, server down. And then connection aborted error, which is peer suddenly closes during active transfer, which most likely would be these latter two. I don't think connection used error would really happen. Reset error, attempt to transfer over already closed connection. Already closed connection. Okay, and then what's gonna happen, right? So it's gonna throw this error saying connection error, lost connection to client, because this is after we've connected to them already. And then we have another except, which catches all non-connection related errors, or most likely non-connection related, but still results in us connection to the client, termination of the while loop, the main while loop. Okay, so then after that, okay, so we understand this. We can get rid of that bookmark. Next one is going to be here. So we have current client online sets to false. Okay, now let's look this up and see what we have coded here for so this is necessary for when if the client reconnects for threading logic. So the only other, well, how about this? Let's look for dot online. That should be a little bit more comprehensive. There we go. Okay, this is only ever changed on the server side. It doesn't need to be transferred at all. Assigned to true in server pi. Whenever a client player comes online, and change to false whenever they disconnect. And server C1 online is equal to false. C2 is online is equal to false. So while at least one of them is not connected, it blocks until both clients have connected. We then do press self accept. So this is this is in start accepting client. I wanted to see. Don't we? Yeah, we call start accepting clients. But then we go back into this function, and this will try. This is run. This is going to be run that thread, the client thread, while CL1 online or self going to be waiting for someone to attempt to connect. Once they do connect the attempt, we assign the con address to self.s accept. Then have if self connects num is equal to 1 is the so in the case of a reconnect, connects num b. In the case of a reconnect, remember that would the so we would then assign it to either con1. Okay, so okay, so we have else. So we have an else. All right. So for subsequent connections, whenever player DCs determines which connection to assign to. Okay. If self address 1 is not equal to self address 2, if the game is being played from 2 different machines IPs, address 0 is equal to self address 1 0. Okay. Self con 1 self address 1. But don't when you do like IP renew, that gives you a new IP address. When you do IP renew through IP config, you're just requesting a new IP address, which is typically done through a command refreshing your. When you do IP renew, you receive a IP address that you previously did not have, right? The IP address is not going to be the same numbers. What? When you do IP renew through the IP config and you get a new IP address, is it... Oh, it's pissing me off. Potentially resulting in a different IP address than the one you previously assigned. Yeah, so it could be a completely different address. It's not necessarily going to be the same. So we have to account for that. So I'll put this right here. Okay, so if self-address blah blah blah. So if adder 0 is equal to self adder 1 at index 0, self con 1 adder 1 is equal to con adder. Okay? Self adder 1 at 2. Okay. So this is checking to see if the IP is the same. What does adder consist of? What does self accept return? Socket returns a tuple containing two values. New socket object is disconnected, and then here's the client's IP address. So the client address is a tuple containing the client's IP address as a string and port number. Okay, so that's right. So yeah, adder 0 is the adder 0 adder equals tuple containing at 0 IP address as string at 1 port number as integer. Okay, so if the IP address, if IP is the same, so this should actually be changed to elif, because so we have else if self adder at 0 is not equal to self So this game is being played from 2 different machines. Okay. So then, okay, so this is actually correct, the else here, because that would be if the adder1 and self adder2 IP were the same. Okay, so that's easy. Alright, so that's actually correct. And then we have if adder0 is equal to self adder, okay. But we need another elif here, because it might be, so we could just say, well, I mean, that's fine, either or. We would then have an elif which says, or rather an else. So if it matches adder1 or adder2, we have it figured out. But if the IP address is new, then we need to figure out if this is a reconnect, but reconnecting has a new IP address. So in this case, if they have a address, we have to account for that. We can basically do, we can check to see, we can do this, right? We can just run this. It messed up the indentation because it just does that. I don't know why. That's what it does. So if C1 is online, current player in is equal to 2, current player in is equal to 1. But okay, because yeah, we don't have to reassign the cons base. Might be through a different port. I don't like. Could be just to be safe here. We would reassign con adder, or we would reassign con1 self adder. No, well, it's a new connection, but the adder would be well, I'm not sure about that though, because have a new port. So let me put a bookmark right here. Actually, it's right here. I guess the really the overall question I'm asking is, couldn't we just check I mean, this is fine. It doesn't really matter. I'm not gonna worry about that. Anyway, yeah, I'm not gonna look into that. It's a waste of time. So C1 online is equal to true. So this is a reconnect, but the reconnecting client has a new IP. So if C1 is online, we just say current player int equals 2. C2 online, current player int is equal to 1. What is the current player int? What does that do then? And don't forget to finish looking up online. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little break. I'll be back in a little while. I'll go eat a little bit, and I'll be back. Peace.